we lose touch with the truth behind that thing because we're uncomfortable with the expression of it. There's a story I heard Vadim Steinsaltz where he learned of someone, or someone told him about a guy who was eating on Yom Kippur, and Adin's response was, I heard this story again, it's not like verified all the way through. Adin Steinsaltz's response was, he celebrates Yom Kippur in my way, and I celebrate it in his way, and I celebrate it in my way, or I honor it in my way. Meaning there's something about that action, right? I'm specifically going to do this on Yom Kippur that shows a passion, a care, a something about Yom Kippur. Like I've heard that, couples which don't fight or which stop fighting, right? It's close to the end, right? If you're not caring, and I think the same is true in a relationship with God. Like it's something beautiful. I'm not saying people should eat on Yom Kippur. What I'm saying is that expression of someone, like what's behind that. When we see someone, you're so disappointed and you're so angry and you're expressing it in this way, there's so much belief, there's so much holiness in that. There's a lot to work with. If the end goal.
So that thing that you're talking about, where you could see that, it's like, how could I be able to see that? What's the ingredient for me to be able to show up to people like that? And if I tie it back to the story with my son, it's like having compassion for where I was at and dealing with where I was at to meet him where he's at.
Right, meaning if you were unwilling, if I understand what you're saying, if you were unwilling to be honest about the fact that you were disconnected from your own Judaism and you were just practicing it by rote, then his disconnection would have been much more triggering for you.
Yeah, and I would be trying to control it to have this image that says we're from family, we're this, we're that, whatever. But in the end of the day, your kids are a reflection of you.
Right. Meaning his lack of practice was a reflection of your lack of practice.
Because your kids are receiving everything from you.
Right.
They rely on you. An animal, unlike animals, where an animal can be born and then go out into the wild and create its own life, a child doesn't just need you for survival biologically, but it becomes an emotional dependency where I am forming my emotions and my expressions of who I am because I have the mind as well. And those are the programs and the filter to my experience. I'm relying on you, so I become reliant on survival to live and all that stuff, and then all the other stuff in there ends up getting and becoming the program. So my kids end up being a reflection of what I'm giving over to them.
Understood. So and
even if the world is giving them something, and you want to blame the world, let's say, how do you help them process through that? That's from you and your wife, right?
But oftentimes it's similar to what we said before. If the world is giving them something, right, then they're out there seeking something. There was a need maybe that wasn't met that then they go out in the world to seek, in much the same way that you said that you didn't feel this vulnerability and connection at home, right? Physically there was support, maybe even in some ways emotionally, but there was a certain level of vulnerability that you weren't getting from your parents. It was the death of your grandmother or grandfather that you weren't able to process with them, and then say, okay, I'm going to seek it out for them. So your parents afterwards can say, I don't like the friends you're choosing, but why am I choosing the friends? Because there's a need that I'm missing here. So either way, it's a reflection that just points back at what's there or not there. Similar to what we said also about call the shofar, right? That we get upset at the community members, right? There's a lashing out at the community members who went to call the shofar, instead of saying, what is the need that's not being addressed in our community that people feel some sort of pull towards there? What is going on that they say, I have the Tanya, I have my Mashpia, I have all these classes in Crown Heights, I have all these things available to me, but there's this retreat somewhere in Toronto, and I'm going to get something meaningful there. Why? Because there's something lacking here. But instead we point at them and say, you're doing it the wrong way.
Instead of trying to help and support.
Instead of realizing it's a representation of us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And simple teaching of the Baal Shem Tov is you see something wrong, you have anger or hate towards something, it's a reflection of something that's going on yourself, and go see what the reflection is and see what your area of work is there, rather than putting something down and squashing it.